I'm joined now by Congressman Jamie Raskin. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's great to have you in D.C.
Oh, thanks. So right now we're watching as Elon Musk has taken an axe to so much of the federal government and so much of these programs that really do help regular American people. I'm talking about the CFPB, I'm talking about USAID, and of course he's going from one agency to the next. At the same time, we now have seen reporting that, for example, Tesla got a $400 million contract. So really taking away from one hand and handing it to the other on the form of a handout to the very guy who is regulating or who's taking it upon himself to unilaterally cut spending to all of these other agencies. Can you speak about what Elon is doing here by virtue of framing this as some big operation to cut wasteful spending in the government, only to see so much money then go into his own pocket?
Okay, let's start with this. The whole anti-corruption crusade is an absolute fraud. They started by decimating the ranks of the inspectors general. These are the people whose job is actually day in and day out, 365 days a year, to ferret out waste, fraud, and abuse in the departments and the agencies. They can only be fired if the president notifies Congress 30 days in advance and gives a specific rationale for why they're being fired, because you can see the danger in allowing the president to remove an anti-corruption fighter within each agency or department. They got rid of 17 of them in the first week. I think they just got rid of the 18th because they were mad at that one. If you were interested in fighting corruption, those are the people you'd be talking to. They're actually doing it day in and day out. They're not trying to take over the computer systems. They've never had to take over the computer systems to do it. They can demand accounting and go through the books. But that completely debunks the claim that it's anti-corruption. What's coming out now is all of the very deep conflicts of interest that apply to Elon Musk with almost every federal agency or department that they've dismantled or whose internal computer machinery they've seized. Take the ones you mentioned. The CFPB has dozens and dozens of complaints from consumers about financial practices of Tesla. Well, what happens when Elon Musk takes it over? They just disappear. That's gone. The National Labor Relations Board, I think you mentioned, lots of complaints and actions against Tesla for violating the rights of the workers at his companies in violation of the National Labor Relations Act. So you go right down the line, but of course, the most glaring conflict of interest of all is that he is a government contractor himself who collects billions of dollars from the U.S. government. And so then he, claims he finds some objectionable video that somebody produced in video in Peru who also had a grant from the federal government or something like that. And he's talking about $10,000 or something. It's a joke. This guy is taking us for a ride. And like all authoritarian and fascist movements around the world in history, corruption is at the heart of it. It's all about allowing people who have lots of wealth and power to seize ever greater parts of the national wealth.
How is this not a red line for these folks who, maybe in good faith at some point, have wanted to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, have wanted to limit federal spending, only to then see this guy, again, to your exact point, take away programs that thousands of dollars here and there, only to heap millions of dollars worth of programs onto himself?
No, I mean, with Trump and Musk, you're in for $1, you're in for $1 trillion. I mean, you're just going to go with whatever they tell you to say. And what's so shocking and shameful about the whole thing is that I've got colleagues who run the oversight committee of the House of Representatives. If they thought there was some waste, fraud, or abuse, they've got the subpoena power. They can have anybody come in and talk about it. They don't even bring Elon Musk in to talk about it. They've just created this monstrous fourth branch of government. He can do whatever he wants. He goes way beyond presidential power. The president could not get away with completely distorting congressional purposes and setting up federal agencies. The president could not abolish a federal agency or department set up by Congress or impound the money that we've allocated for one purpose and use it for some other purpose.
Okay, so I want to dig into that because we know that the president can't abolish entire agencies. We know that the president can't impound money that was being rightfully allocated by Congress. And yet what we're seeing right now is these agencies by virtue of the firings, by virtue of getting starved by funding, they are de facto being shut down. And so there is that delta right here that we're dealing with between they can't do this and they're doing it right now in real time.
Yeah.
So where does that put us? Do these things have to be litigated in the court?
Yes.
And in real, while that's being done, the agencies are basically atrophying away because folks are being told not to return. People are assuming that they're fired. Their offices are being cleared out. And so just by virtue of just time passing, the agencies are losing their potency and their legitimacy.
The federal workers need to stay in very close touch with their unions and with the litigation that's going on, because we are winning in almost every case. In more than a dozen cases, there have been TROs, temporary restraining orders, and PIs, preliminary injunctions, issued against the Trump administration saying, no, you don't have the power to seize the financial data of 300 million Americans at the Department of the Treasury and give it back. No, you don't have a power to sack 90% of the workforce at USAID and violate all the contracts you have and stop the flow of federal money that we've already appropriated and that's already been programmed. So we've got to stay on all of the cases in Congress. The Democrats, we're going to be filing amicus briefs in all these cases at the appellate level, and some of them we're going to even be trying to file at the district level to get our voices heard there. But we need to be supporting the lawyers and the people who are willing to take Trump to court because we are winning. And that's going to be a really important part of filling that gap you talk about between what the rule of law says and then what's actually happening, because we're dealing with a band of incorrigible, lawless plutocrats who think that they can just control the whole U.S. government. And I keep thinking about what Steve Bannon said about Elon Musk. He said he's a truly evil individual, and he's part of this.
Steve Bannon, to say somebody is a truly harmful individual is really saying something.
Well, he knows that whole crowd, so he knows what he's talking about, and so that's quite a statement. But in the Silicon Valley, in that network of right-wing billionaire libertarian turned authoritarians, they are very open about the fact that they think that democracy is obsolete. We're living in a post-constitutional America. The Constitution no longer fits. And they are trying to get everybody ready for a techno-state monarchy. And in their writings about it, they suggest that seizure of the control of technology and computers and financial payments is the essence to moving from one form of government to another. So we're really talking about people who would like to abolish American constitutional institutions and representative democracy and the rights and freedoms of the people. Their guy Yarvin, who's their big intellectual hero, has said people have got to overcome their fear of the word dictator. He says a dictator is basically just like a corporate CEO. They're all dictators in their businesses, and so we need a dictator that is the corporation. That's the United States of America. And obviously, they have Elon Musk in mind because he could never run for president. He wasn't born in the United States of America. He's had citizenship in 3 different countries. He was actually an undocumented immigrant here for many months before he got work authorization for all of the right-wingers out there who want to kick all the undocumented people of the country out, although that might be an argument in their favor. I don't know. But in any event, these people are talking about supplanting our system of constitutional democracy with a completely different kind of government controlled by dictatorship.
For somebody like you who has your life has been steeped in the history and the importance of following the Constitution, which, by the way, is something that Republicans used to beat their chest about before suddenly it became inconvenient.
They never mention it anymore.
Don't talk about it anymore. But for somebody like you who is in this position, who's found himself in this position, you like to quote Tom Paine.
Yes.
The times have found us. What is it like to see all of this unfolding? I'm sure that when you ran for office, it wasn't to try and push away a budding autocrat, and certainly not to be able to defend the very concept of democracy in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I served as the majority whip in the Maryland State Senate, and there it was the opposite of the situation I'm in now. The Democrats had control of the state Senate, the state House, and the governorship, and we got incredible stuff done for our people. And made extraordinary economic and social progress for the people of Maryland, and we abolished the death penalty. We decriminalized marijuana. We did medical marijuana for people suffering from multiple sclerosis and cystic fibrosis and serious diseases. We passed the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact plan to take aim at the Electoral College, which is an accident waiting to happen every 4 years and just deliberately, structurally frustrates popular democracy in the country. So anyway, we were getting stuff done. I mean, to me, it was exhilarating to see how politics could help people's lives and make things happen in a good way. And then I got elected the same night as Donald Trump, and our political fortunes have been intertwined ever since. And but
Very got a Harry Potter, Lord Voldemort like thing going on.
well, I feel fortunate that I get to wake up every day and go and fight for everything that I believe in, and to fight for the common good, and to fight for healthcare for the people, to fight for the great federal workers who are air traffic controllers and drug and safety inspectors at the FDA and research scientists at the NIH and all the people, the contractors and the universities whose work is related to that. I feel very fortunate to be in a role where I can do that, but I am convinced and I am determined that we get through this nightmare and we defeat authoritarianism in America, and then help to defeat the autocrats and the plutocrats and the theocrats all over the world who are violating human rights and feel as if now suddenly they're very much in league with the government of the United States of America.
To that exact point, I know a lot of folks who are watching this right now are going to have a lot of worry, concern, anxiety, and fear about the prospect of what Republicans want to do kind of bearing itself out, them being successful at being able to undermine democracy. And they want to see something done. They want to know that there is a plan. They want to know that our elected officials will serve as a strong enough bulwark against the worst excesses of the executive branch. So can you go over what you and some of your colleagues in the House are doing right now as kind of a plan to be able to push back?
Yes. Well, I'm in charge of the legal strategy, which is just a small part of a broader strategy. My plan is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We're going to defend them wherever we can. That means in court, we're going to be filing amicus briefs. There are now more than 75 cases around the country. We're not going to be able to do all of them, but we are monitoring all of them closely, and we're involved with a select group of them right now, which go right to the question of congressional power and the constitutional rights of the people. And we are going to be filing amicus briefs. In a couple cases, we might try to intervene, become a party. And there's even one particular scenario where we could sue on our own behalf. And that is, we learned yesterday from the Department of Justice that they will no longer defend the members of federal boards like National Labor Relations Board, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission. All of the people who serve on those boards, and they're usually half Democrats, half Republicans by statute, all of them are able to serve for the period of their term. It might be 8 years, it might be 6 years, 4 years, whatever, and cannot be fired for political reasons. They can only be fired for some kind of cause, for corruption or malfeasance, some kind of offense against government. Okay, so that's been the law since the New Deal. There's a Supreme Court decision called Humphrey's Executor, which stands for the principle that it's okay for Congress to set it up like that, to have terms that go from the Trump administration to the Biden administration.
The Federal Reserve is built that way too. And so
Yes.
this way it insulates some systems that just the country more broadly rely on not being politicized.
Right.
Like being able to fire the Fed chair so that you can help yourself politically by using the Treasury.
Exactly. And the FBI director was like that, a 10-year appointment. Well, look, Donald Trump has taken the position that his scholars call the unitary executive position, which is that anything that is under the executive branch of government, writ broadly, including the independent boards and agencies, are not really independent, but are rather subordinate and vertically reporting to the president. So the president can fire any of them for any reason, for political reasons, for reasons of retaliation, and Congress cannot stand in the way with a statute which says, no, this is a 6-year term, or this is a 4-year term that has gone into your administration. We learned last night, this is really an historic and dreadful statement, but the Department of Justice said they no longer will defend these statutes. So people are going to start to feel the consequences of this outrageous monarchical and ideological assault on the laws of the people, the programs of the people, right? That's what government is. In a democratic society, government is just us and the people we pay relatively low wages to go and do our work. What's the job of the president? Is it to be a king? Is it to be a monarch? Is it to do whatever he wants with the workforce? Is it to run roughshod over the laws of Congress or impound the money Congress has allocated? No. The core job of the president in Article 2 is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Take the laws that Congress has passed and implement them. That's the job of the president. So why do we have a civil service with air traffic controllers and at the FAA and food and drug safety experts at the FDA and research scientists at NIH and weather people at the National Weather Service? Why do we have it? To implement the laws, the programs that the Congress has adopted. And who's directing Congress? The people. The people elect the Congress, we write the laws, and then the people that we hire into the civil service implement the laws. And the president is supposed to help that process, to take care of that process, not destroy it.
Well, I'm grateful that we have you fighting on our side, and I know that there is a lot more fight to go. You always manage to find yourself right in the middle of this stuff, whether it's impeachment or now very much in the prelude to a constitutional crisis at the hands of Trump and this executive branch, and a legislative branch that's perfectly content to contract its power, its autonomy over to Trump. So we will, of course, stay on top of everything. Congressman, appreciate you taking the time.
Well, appreciate what you're doing, Brian. The media are the best friends of the people, not the enemies of the people's best friend. And you exemplify that today. So keep up your great work. We'll get through this nightmare. And then at that point, I'm going to drive all the way across the country and I'll come out and see you in California, which will be safer than flying these days under the Trump FAA.